So what I would do is, you and I in high school, we'd be buddies and we'd hang out, and I'd come over to play Xbox. And while you'd go set up Madden, I'd be like, hey, where's your mom at? I want to talk to her real quick.
Your fighting career was kind of ignited all because your dad frequented a local bar, right?
That's a fact.
Explain that.
So, sorry, Dad, love you.
Look at you coming over the top
Nah,
already.
See, yeah, because I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to fuck with me here, yeah. I think my first rodeo, pal.
What's the biggest fight you've ever fought in the ring?
The correct answer is my last fight, which was against Adrian Broner down in Miami.
Are you ever at the point where you're like, man, I am really screwing these people over, but I'm just doing my job?
You're bringing the heat today, bro.
It's what I do. So what are you getting ready for, Bill? What's this next fight?
So the next fight is March 1st here in Pittsburgh. He beat the piss out of me. On top of me, punching me, I'm getting jacked up. I can't go out like this, you know? So I grabbed the back of his head and I pulled him down and I bit his nostril off.
Welcome to the Barbells and Bourbon podcast, where you will find strength in stories from the comfort of my home. I am your big, bald, bearded, barbell lifting, bourbon drinking son of a bitch, Sean. And joining me today is Sir William Hutchinson.
Much appreciated. Glad to be here.
Do I have to call you sir the whole time?
No, absolutely not.
I call you Bill.
Bill, Hutch, you know, it depends.
Okay, yeah,
it's
Hutch.
all good, man. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, Bill, welcome to our home. It's a pleasure having you. We've kind of juggled the scheduling of this a little bit just due to like personal schedules. You're very busy right now.
Yes, sir.
You have something very big coming up, which I don't want to talk about yet,
Okay.
but we will talk about. First question I have for you though, Bill, is are you more nervous walking into a courtroom as an attorney or stepping into the ring as a professional fighter?
Great question. I think that I would have to say the ring as a professional fighter to a much greater extent because of the uncertainty. Okay, anytime you're walking into a courtroom for a hearing or anything like that, you're very prepared. You already have your arguments planned out. The other side has their arguments planned out. They've already been submitted. You've reviewed them. You know what's going on. You know the topics that are coming up. You know, in a fight, not so much, right? And so it's you have a game plan, obviously. You know, we certainly do. You have watched film likely on this opponent. You think you know how they're going to perform, but don't forget that they've also never fought you either.
Yeah.
Right? So they're gonna come with their own game plan. They're gonna strategize and change some things up a little bit here and there. But realistically, you have no idea what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So it's unnerving. Walking out for a fight is very much touching every single emotion that you can imagine.
Adrenaline, fear, nerves, anxiety.
Everything.
Yeah.
You're absolutely terrified. You're excited. You're, you know, just the emotions are everything. I know a UFC fighter, Donald Cerrone, used to always say that it's like more insane than skydiving. And I agree with that because it's you are in control, but you're not, right? You want to be in control and you want to control as much of that atmosphere as you can, but you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. But that fear is good though.
Absolutely.
Right, those nerves are good. It keeps you on your feet and on your toes. And
If you're not getting nervous before a fight, you probably should retire. Because, you know, you're not going to be sharp. You know, that actually keeps you sharp. You know, sometimes, you know, so today I was a little bit late from sparring, you know, and sparring is another good kind of indicator for guys like me who have been in the game for over 20 years. Dating myself a little bit, but you know,
we don't want to talk about age because
Yeah.
I date you. So
yeah. So listen, you know, sometimes I could get lackadaisical in there just because I'm so comfortable. I've been through this so many times. You're probably not going to show me something that I've never seen. So, you know, a fight's a little different, right? The headgear's off, the gloves are smaller. We're trying to kill each other. We're not touching and trying things, right? So that's a little bit different. No, there's no room for being lackadaisical there.
yeah. You walked in and I asked how your sparring session went and you were like, I am so on point right now. Everything's clicking and you feel confident.
I feel absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it should be criminal to feel this good, honestly. Like everything is like in slow motion right now. I feel phenomenal. I can't overstate that. You know, everything is just clicking. I'm healthy. Like what? I'm healthy. Like every fighters out there know, like if you can make it through a fight camp and not have injuries lingering, this, that, and the third. A couple of weeks ago, my coaches pushed me through some sparring. I was very sick. You know what I mean? But we did it, and I'm like, if I could do 8 rounds like that, wait till I could breathe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Good perspective.
it's
Yeah.
like, so, but now that I got all that cleared out and it's like my conditioning's on point and I'm ready to rock, man.
Well, I'm excited to see the fight. I think I'm going to try to go because I know Shane's
Yeah.
Shonaki's going to be there too.
Yep.
And he was
Yep.
just a guest on here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
So I would love to come out and support you guys. Again, we'll talk about the actual fight here soon. But that fear, do you feel like that fear is little bit lessened when you feel as confident as you are right now? Like, do you think it's going to be a little bit easier for you to walk into that ring?
Yeah. Yes. Yes and no. And it's tough. It's tough to describe exactly the feeling that it is because it's probably not fear. It's probably just awareness, right? I am aware that I am standing across from a gentleman that's very capable of hurting me. Okay. So it's not so much that I fear him and his capabilities, but I'm very aware and I'm paying attention
Okay.
and I'm on point. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get caught slipping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So as a fighter, are you, and if I'm phrasing this wrong, just punch me, but are you actually trying to hurt the person? I mean, obviously you're trying to knock them out and wear them down to the point where you're going to win either by decision or by knockout, but do you have like feeling violent?
Yes and no. So absolute. The answer is yes to trying to hurt them. Okay. And the only reason it's not a resounding yes to your question is because you added the feeling violent. Okay. So in the best way I can phrase this is we talked about all these emotions that you're feeling. I meant that, and I say that as you're walking out. When you get in that ring, you better lock that up and you better be on point and you better be emotionless. Okay. Because if you are showing emotion, you are feeling emotion, you are angry, you aren't thinking. I love when fighters are aggressive and angry at me because guess what? You're doing nothing but making mistakes and I'm going to pick you apart and I'm going to pick which way I want to take you out.
Because they're distracted by those
They're
emotions.
distracted. Yeah. And guess what? That anger so very quickly turns to fear when it doesn't work. Okay?
Yeah.
And then you've just zapped all of that energy. Okay? Emotion conditioning and cardio, right? It's all about your heart rate. Well, guess what also evokes your heart rate? Emotion.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you're angry and scared and this and that, I'm just poking holes in that gas tank.
Yep.
And you're done for. And so going back to your original question, that violence, if you will, I don't allow myself to be led by emotion. So a lot of people say, how do you go into these fights and how do you get mad enough at this person to fight them? And I like to say, I'm not mad. I'm just mean. Okay? I'm going to be very calm, calculated, and collective, and I'm just not going to give you a way out. Okay? When I have that point and I know when it's time to take you out, I'm going to do it. Not because I'm mad at you, just because I'm mean.
Because you see after fights, you guys hug it out. Regardless of who won, who lost, it's like a camaraderie. I don't know if it's fake, but I'm sure you respect each other to some degree, right?
It's really hard not to.
Yeah.
When you share a cage or a ring or an alley with somebody and you get it all out and it's done, I don't care who you are. You have some level of respect from the guy, even that you just beat up, that he had the heart to stand in there with you and trade blows. So there's a respect earned there no matter what happens. Because especially in today's world, we're not getting a lot of that.
That is very true and it's very sad.
Yeah.
So I've thrown one punch in my entire life in 46 years.
How'd that go?
It was dumb. It was in a high school swimming pool.
Wow.
Yeah, my bully, I had had enough. I was bullied by this kid for probably 2.5 years, and I had had enough. So I swung at him, and he went under the water. And then the swim teacher was like, blowed his whistle and was like, hey, what the hell's good?
Okay.
So I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, I don't want to say I feel like a sissy, but I've never been in a fight before. Maybe that's because I can handle myself well, or maybe I'm not a target for some reason. But
Yeah.
I don't want to get stuck in an alley with you, bro. I know that.
Come on.
We'll hug it out afterwards.
Yeah, we'll hug it out
regardless.
after. Don't worry about
You'll
it.
respect me for
Yeah,
getting my ass beat.
I'll respect you for stepping up.
But Bill, I was telling you before we started filming that the show's a little bit different than some of the shows that you've been on or some of the shows that you've seen. We know what you do. We know you're a fighter, an elite fighter for that matter. But there's so much more to you than that. You know, we know what you do during the day as an attorney. I want to know who you are as a person. I want to know what created this person that's sitting across from you right now. And I'm sure you didn't, you weren't born with boxing gloves on.
I was not.
So what created that person? So I want to kind of flash back a little bit and have you kind of reminisce on your childhood. So where did you grow up originally?
So I'm born and raised here in Pittsburgh. Originally, my younger years, I grew up in Sheridan, which is in like the west end of the city there, city school. And then we eventually moved, and I ended up graduating from Montour, which is Kennedy, Robinson area. But really the origins of the fight, if you will, or things of that sort, is it just goes back to being uber competitive. It goes back to always trying to be the best. And one of the things that I'm known for, or is just kind of in me, is I'm very much an extremist. I can't do something half-assed. I just can't. It's not in me. And that's a really good thing when it's channeled in the right direction.
Exactly. I was going to say, you gotta pick the right path wisely with that attitude.
100%. And you can imagine how that is not the best scenario in other cases. But, that willingness to go there, that willingness to go through the deep waters, that willingness to go all the way, is what makes me successful in fighting and makes me even allowed to be there, because I have what I think is the respect of the fight community for always being ready to take it there.
Okay. Now, did you get this competitive attitude from your parents, from siblings? Like, tell me about your family life a little bit.
So I had a phenomenal upbringing. I have two great parents that were always around, always loved me and everything like that. But what I will say about them is they never allowed me to sell myself short. I always had the utmost. It was expected that I was going to be the best. I can't tell you, how many times we've had like a talk. Like I'd come home, and this happened maybe only once or twice, but I'd come home with my report card and it'd be all A's and a B. Okay. And we didn't slap five and I didn't get a toy. We had a talking. Okay. Because, I'll remember my mom used to just be like, well, so you couldn't have just tried a little harder. Like, you had straight A's, but you just couldn't, like, what happened? Like,
what a boost of
confidence. Yeah, you're an asshole. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
You were so close. Like, you're quit being a fuck up. You got all A's and a B. But that's what I dealt with. So for me, I didn't get straight A's and like celebrate. My straight A's was expected. That was just the start of it. You know what I mean? That was just par for the course. There's nothing to celebrate yet. That's what you're supposed to do. So, and that just leads you into anything else you want to go, because that kind of expectation and that weight I carried with me, and I lived that, and I meant that.
I was going to say, that's a lot of pressure on a kid to be expected to be perfect, essentially. How did that, change your attitude with like friends and your social life, where you were expected to lead this, I don't want to say perfect life. I said it again, but were you afraid to get in trouble? Were you afraid to have fun? Like, were you expected to be studying all night? How did that change your social life?
So I just made sure I didn't get caught. Okay. We have to make sure that we can keep up this
calculated.
Yeah, we got to make sure we can keep up this persona and we can keep up these expectations, because what goes with that extreme expectation comes with burnout. Okay, so what do you do when you burn out? You go the complete opposite direction in a really bad course, right? So you have to level that out and get back on course as quickly as you possibly can, and make sure that all that was cleaned up, and make sure that no one ever hears about that little detour.
So you had this all figured out from a very early age. That's frightening.
I was very, very calculated in what people knew I got away with.
Yeah.
But I really was a good kid. You know, I don't mean all that to say I was doing some terrible stuff, but I did my fair share of partying. Do not get me wrong. I did my fair share of all the bull crap kids do in high school and all of that. But, you know, I never got caught with it.
An interesting part of your story, to me anyways, is your fighting career was kind of ignited all because your dad frequented a local bar, right?
That's a fact.
Explain that.
So, sorry, Dad, love you. But when I was young, I had a lot of energy, you know, and so there was a judo club in the church basement that was cat a corner across the street to my dad's favorite bar. So, coincidentally, I was at judo a lot. You know, okay, like I was
see
like
you, Dad.
number one student. You know what I'm saying? And so I mean, it's smart. I got to give him credit there. Like at the same time, it's funny. Is like he had it figured out. You know, a couple hours a day, he's being a great dad, taking me. Yeah,
go do your
go
judo.
train hard. You know, go get your yellow belt, pal. And so you know, it works out great. And but what it kind of backfired for him because you know at a certain point, I said, Dad, listen. I love this judo thing. It's awesome. I really did enjoy judo. I think it's a great martial art. I think it's a great tool that I continue to use to this day. I was just talking to somebody about that today, how I still use it in my boxing. But I told him, hey, I really want to fight. And I'll never forget my dad was like, okay, how about this? Okay, well, I'm going to take you to a Golden Gloves boxing match. Okay, and we'll see if you still want to do it. Let me take, come on, son. You're going to see some kids get punched in the face. You're going to see some bloody noses, and you're going to go right back into your gi and go back to judo, right? And I'll never forget, we went to a Golden Gloves match, and I was just in heaven. I told my dad, I'm like, this is exactly what I want to do, right? And I could just see in his face, he's like, shit.
Defeated.
Like this didn't work out how I thought it would. Yeah. So that was the start of all that for sure.
How about mom? How did she feel about her little boy wanting to be a fighter?
Absolutely hated it. So believe it or not, my dad is very much a calm, we could figure this out. You'll probably never see my dad get mad. He blows things off very easily. Not an aggressive fighter kind of guy. Very chill, laid back guy. My mom is fiery. My mom will fight you today. Like, she's crazy, okay? She'll fight you, and I mean that, like, with everything in me. She is nuts.
What's your mom's name?
Carol.
Crazy Carol?
Carol Ann will come out, you know what I mean? She'll come fight you right now, okay? So, but she's never been to a fight. She refuses.
Because she doesn't want to see her son get hurt?
I don't know if it's that or if she'd be so embarrassed because she'd be jumping in the ring. Like, my mom can't handle that, you know what I mean? She's just like, she's ready to go. She's ready to go. And in her younger days, she was known for throwing down. So, you know, she probably still thinks she's got one or two left.
Oh, I see where you're getting. Not from dad, like
yeah,
you'd expect.
Mom's a wild one. So, you know, I can remember her like vividly telling, because everybody wants their parents to be at their events, whether it's football, boxing, whatever. It used to really bother me. I'm like, Mom, you know, you can't come out? Her whole family come, my aunts, uncles, my family comes to the fights, my friends come to the fights, my mom won't come. So there was one fight. It was my last amateur fight down at the Rivers Casino outside on a Roy Jones Jr. card. And, I mean, we packed the place. And we talked my mom into coming. Okay, so my mom was in attendance for one of my fights. Okay? On my walkout, my opponent decides he's not going to fight. My opponent, as I'm walking to the ring, the opponent decides he's not fighting. We did the weigh-ins, we did everything. And so the fight's off. So I'm literally in the ring on the announcing microphone, like, sorry to everybody that came out to support me. This is crazy. The kid bitched out at the last minute, whatever the case may be. And it was just like a sign that my mom was never supposed to see me fight. So now we don't let her come because we don't want people backing out. You know what I mean? But that is true. She showed up to one, and I did not fight.
Got called off. Is that the only time that's happened?
Yes, thank God. Knock on wood, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, so do you think it was out of fear? He just didn't want
Yeah, it was an excuse. I think their actual Complaint was they had to warm up in a tent or something. I'm like, it's an outdoor venue, pal. Like, we're
Yeah.
all doing the same thing here. There's no like,
Yeah, you didn't get some red carpet treatment and
right.
he's in the
Yeah.
freaking.
And we were amateurs, bro. We got like the shittiest end of the stick. The pros were wherever they were getting pampered. We're the scrubs. We're opening the show.
It's how it's
Like,
supposed to be. Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that's fair. I
Right.
wasn't mad about it. I was in the ring,
Yeah.
and I guess that wasn't acceptable to him at the last. I think it was just a way out. Was the bottom line. He
Got
had
it.
an excuse that he didn't want to go through with it, but.
How much you getting paid as an amateur doing fights?
Nothing at the time. At that point, I believe it's a long time ago. God, I believe we were allowed to get a percentage of tickets that we sold. We weren't allowed to get like a purse or like a check, but I think we did get a percentage of ticket sales if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
So this is more to get your name out there.
For sure.
To prove
For
yourself.
sure. Hell yeah. This was my last amateur fight at the Rivers Casino. I believe the main event was Monty Mesa Clay. So, like, I wanted that. It was a good promotional push for me that I wanted very much. So,
Yeah.
I wasn't turning that down over a paycheck for sure.
Yeah. So back to your childhood. Being that you were into fighting and you were feeling confident in the fact that you could protect yourself and defend yourself, did that change how you were in school? Like, did you feel like you were the shit, walk around like no one can touch me, or did it not change you at all?
So, it was probably a necessity because I was very young for my grade. So I was 16 my senior year of high school. So as a freshman, I was what,
Was that 13?
13?
Damn.
So I vividly remember my freshman year, you're back up at the big school, and I had a wood shop class my freshman year with an 18-year-old. Okay, so this is a grown man, and me, I'm a smaller guy. I was very small at 13, like very small, very light, and I got in an altercation with that 18-year-old, and he beat the piss out of me. I mean, on top of me, punching me, I'm getting jacked up. And I just remember, like, I can't go out like this. So I grabbed the back of his head and I pulled him down and I bit his nostril off. And just a little piece, not like the whole thing, just like a little
Just
piece.
a little piece.
And he got off of me and I got up and that was the end of it. And I never got picked on again. But, like, that fighting and that, wherewithal, even though I had skills, I was no match for essentially a grown man. I mean, he's just the strength and
Size,
everything. I was just getting pummeled. And so I had to kind of take it to that next level. But, to answer your question, it probably did me some favors with my confidence and everything else because I happened to be in some of those situations in school.
Yeah. So what'd you do outside of school? I mean, you graduate high school. You're obviously an attorney now. At what point in your life did you, kind of take that path of making a professional career out of something that takes some education rather than just using your fists?
So I always, I shouldn't say always, I very much had it in my head that, I could do a little bit more as it related to my career or whatever. Look, I didn't necessarily know for sure what I wanted to do, but it made sense. Like the attorney thing, like made sense to me. Okay. And why is because fighting and all of this other activities that I'm doing are a physical competition, right? Well, an attorney is just an intellectual competition, right? So it just naturally kind of made sense to me. So that was kind of always in the back of my head, but I never really like pulled the trigger on it because of various things that kind of occurred, or like I'd have a big fight coming up, or I would take a different job or whatever. So I actually had 7 years of a gap between when I graduated college and when I went to law school. So there was quite a bit of time there where, I had kind of, I wouldn't say given up on the attorney thing, but the plan deviated. It
Yeah.
wasn't a straight line.
Where'd you go to college?
So I originally went to CCAC. Well, so when I'm in high school, let me take it a step back. When I'm in high school, they had a program and I was able to take classes at the University of Pittsburgh while I was in high school. Okay, so that was like my first college credits. Then when I got out of school, I started boiler making. So while I was boiler making, I wanted to keep getting my credits. So I was taking online classes at CCAC while I was boiler making. Then after that job, I went and got my actual degree. So my undergraduate degree is from Point Park University, downtown Pittsburgh.
In
English with a focus in creative writing.
okay.
Yeah, I told you we're
What-
taking some angles here.
What
some
was your
detours.
plan with that degree? What did you want
So,
to be?
I very much liked the creative aspect. That was just like the tangent of fun for me. But the real plan, my serious thought process was English was the ticket for law school, because the faster I could read and comprehend information quickly. Because in law school, you're going to see books that are going to make you take a step back.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought that, okay, if I can consume this information quickly and efficiently, I could do anything with it. Right? It's certainly not getting some great job with an English degree, right? Outside of like teaching or something.
Yeah.
But to your point and to the look you gave me when I said that, it's not like this big catalyst that people think of when they say, or engineering or finance or whatever, English, you why? But
Yeah.
that was my theory.
So you took 7 years off
Yeah.
of education, I guess. What did you do in those 7 years?
I was training, fighting, and running different businesses. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 15 years old. I love business, okay? Even as an attorney now, I'm a business attorney. All my clients right now are businesses. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I just love business, right?
What was your preneur at 15?
So I I didn't start it, but I was a subcontractor for Cutco Cutlery Knives. I worked for Vector Marketing, and I saved up all my pennies and I bought a big kit of kitchen cutlery, and I'd come to your kitchen and cut rope and cut through leather and try to sell you knives.
Cut the tomato and the piece of paper all in
Yeah,
one swipe.
listen, man, the warranty, come on.
Were you good at that?
I was very good at that, and I'll tell you how I did it. So what I would do is, you and I in high school, we'd be buddies and we'd hang out, and I'd come over to play Xbox, and while you'd go set up Madden, I'd be like, hey, where's your mom at? I want to talk to her real quick. You'd
God.
come upstairs and I'd be cutting leather, and you'd be like, what the hell are you doing? I thought we were playing video games. I'm like, nah, hold on, I got to finish this sale real quick, then we'll come down and I'll do whatever you want.
That's a great way to make friends. Not. Don't invite Hutch over.
Yeah,
He's
don't
gonna
invite
try
me
and sell
over.
you some shit.
That's right. I'm gonna sell your mom some knives.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't even remember what the hell we were talking about. So okay, entrepreneur. Name some of the other businesses that you started or were part of.
So I got involved in my father's towing business, Hutch Towing down in Crafton. Right now, he's got 5 working mechanical bays, full auto body shop. So it became a lot more than just towing. Got all of his licenses and certifications to do everything that he needs to via, whether it be emission, state inspection, etc. So that was like my first, like, okay, here's an established business. How can I make it better? Okay, and obviously the personal aspect of that. And then once I seen that I could really help him, I was like, okay, now my wheels are turning. Like that was like my first opportunity to show what I had in that aspect, and I was like hooked.
Now, what were you doing for him?
So I came in, and the first thing we did is we invested. So it was like essentially dirt floors. It was like an old school. It was like, I think maybe 2 bays, you could call them. It's very much a towing company. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very much so. No state inspection, no nothing. Every now and then he'd do small body work, whatever. So we concreted the whole floor, 5 working bays, new lifts, the whole 9, beefed up the auto body bay in the back. So at that point, he went from essentially being towing and some small repairs to being able to handle actual contracts with larger companies. I don't want to state them on here, but he has quite a few. And one of the contracts that I helped him get during that time was an old company that I don't even think is around anymore. It used to be called Car Hop. It's like the cheapest, nastiest cars. They especially would like hoodwink you into buying these cars. It was like a 2002 Chevy Impala with 200,000 miles on it. But if you didn't have any credit or you didn't have any money, they'd give you one for like $500 a month and you'd never pay it off.
30% interest.
30% interest. It was all a scam. You know what I mean? But it was good for us because our deal was any of their warranty repairs, we would come out, tow it back to our shop and fix the repair. So we were busy as hell because these cars were crap, right?
Falling apart on a daily.
Very much a good deal for us. So essentially, I was young, I don't know, maybe 18, 19. When I really started doing that, I'll never forget. It was like my dad made $100,000, I made $100,000, and we put $100,000 in the bank. And I was like, hell yeah, I could do this. Like, you know, and to me, that was like, I was a millionaire. Like, I was like, you know,
I mean,
I was killing it.
You were 18?
I was young, brother. I was young.
Dude, that's
So,
like crazy money.
was like,
That's
I can do
dream
this.
of money.
Yeah,
at that
exactly.
age.
And then, so at that same point, or shortly thereafter, you know, I was boiler making. So you got to figure it was in the jobs I was working on were new construction. So at new construction, everybody got journeyman rate. So I was like,
Boilermakers make some good cash.
it was
I've
good.
heard.
When it was good, it was good. And so like I was young, I had more than I knew what to do with, and I was having fun, brother.
All right. So first thing I'm thinking is money was never an issue for you. A lot of people try multiple things to hit it rich, right? To find that dream job where they're going to be able to retire comfortably and never have to worry about money. That was never really the problem for you. So why did you further your education when you already found ways to make a lot of money?
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. I was I can specifically remember, especially boilermaking, where like I was a boilermaker for like 3 years or so, and I was making good money, working like 8 months a year, the other 4 months just fucking
Blowing the
off,
money.
doing whatever I wanted. It was awesome, you know. Like I had like seasons I'd work, and it was enough to be for the whole year and whatever. But it just wasn't enough for me, and I just remember thinking to myself like, I've already kind of like conquered it, if you will. Like, where else am I gonna go? Like, where else do I go? You know, there's foreman, there's superintendent, maybe whatever. But like, is that the plan? Is that where this ends? Is that the ceiling for me? And especially in a union environment, there is a ceiling.
Yeah.
We'll tell you to the dollar amount what your ceiling is. And so it just wasn't for me. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a phenomenal thing to get into. It feeds a lot of families, but it just wasn't for me. And so the idea for me has always been unlimited income, entrepreneurship, businesses. And, you know, if I put the work in, I put the sweat equity in, and I come up with the ideas, that I'll be compensated for it. But to go back to that, money certainly was not always just there, because the ebbs and flows of that stuff, as you, I'm sure, are aware, you know, in business, there's years where you're doing jumping jacks and backflips, and there's years that you're on your knees praying for a dollar. So, you know, make no mistake, there's been plenty of times where I've put ramen noodles and hot dogs on a credit card so that I could eat, just to keep things rolling until I could get it back to it. So it's not all rainbows over here, brother.
So, I mean, elaborate on that if you would, because, you know, a lot of the viewers, this is the stuff that they're going to relate to, because, you know, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And on the surface, Bill, you seem like you got it all, right? You pulled in a nice car, and you're a good fighter, and you made a lot of money. But hearing that you struggle too is going to help someone out there and say, hey, okay, I'm not alone. So like, tell me about some of those low times. What caused it?
It's kind of just the ebbs and flows in business. You know, it's not like a specific thing. It's like, you could have the best idea. You could have the right team around you. And for whatever reason, at that time, it's just not working. The same thing that got you to the mountaintop, tomorrow it didn't work. And you're trying to, and that's when you really got to put your thinking cap on and say, hey, what did I miss here? Was this blind luck? Was it just good timing? What's the deal here? And you got to start dissecting that and figuring out, you know, did I just grab lightning in a bottle, or what did I do right? And how come I couldn't sustain it? What was the problem? And so that's more or less the story, as opposed, you know, like, I didn't have some like terrible thing happen to me. I wasn't in an accident. I didn't have somebody, like an employee, sue me or anything like that. It was more like, hey, where'd all the work go? Hey, you know, I thought this was a good idea. What happened? Or I invested in this business and we started seeing great returns, and then it just dried up. Like, what happened? So
Do you ever think that maybe you got too comfortable in those phases and you weren't trying to plan ahead for those possible avalanches that came?
Absolutely. That's certainly something that could be said, and it's certainly something that I would warn clients about today. I've actually been pretty good at preparing for a rainy day, and I'm not like, trust me, anything that you would see on the surface from me, ask my wife, she calls me the cheapest guy in the world, is like so low on my priority list. Like, I'm not, trust me, I want all the nice stuff just like everybody else. I want the Rolex, I want the Ferrari. Yes, I want all that. But it's not on my high priority list. It's there. I'll get to it, but I'm not going to stretch myself for that kind of thing. I'm not going to be car poor, let alone I'm not going to be house poor, let alone car poor. So like, to me, that's all craziness. I work very, very hard, and I try to make sure that we're all, especially now, I have a son, I have a family that I have to think about. I could never put myself in a situation that I would have been willing to do single, especially, those times where, I'm eating ridiculous stuff just to get by. Those days are gone because it's not just about me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. When you have a family,
Yeah.
your priorities sure do change, and you're not just surviving for yourself anymore. So you go back to law school after 7 years. Where'd you go to law school at?
So here's a good story for you. Why did I go back to law school? Finally, 7 years, right? Why not 6? Why 8? Why not 8? Why was it 7? What happened? So I was having one of my lower times. Business wasn't all that great at the time. I was actually out getting shit-faced at the time. I was drunk as shit. And I came back to my house, and I was with a buddy of mine, John Ellis. We're sitting at the island in my house, and I had a letter on there because whenever you take like the LSATs and you apply for law schools and stuff, you can manually put in what schools you want to apply to. And then at the time, there was a little box at the bottom that you could click on and apply to any schools that would take your application for free in addition to the ones that you did. So I can vividly remember thinking like, F it, why not? Click the button. Forgot about it, right? So on this night, I come home, shit-faced, I'm sitting in my island, and we're drinking more, and there's this envelope on my island. And my boy John was like, hey, like, what is this? And I was like, it looks like a law school or something. And he was like, are you going to open it? And I was like, yeah, maybe, whatever. I opened it, and it was Golden Gate University in San Francisco, California, smaller law school out there. And it was like, hey, we seen your scores, la-da-da-da-da. We want to offer you a full scholarship to come out to California and go to law school here. And I'm like, well, this kind of was crazy, right? So that next morning, I got up, sobered up, flew out to California, found an apartment, signed up, flew back, started shipping stuff out, started a training camp for my last Pittsburgh boxing match I was going to have, quit all the drinking and doing everything like that, got into camp, won that fight. The day after that fight, flew out to California and lived there for a year.
Damn. The tale as old as time. That's how all attorney stories start. Yeah, with that drunken night and
yeah. But it was all
1,000 times.
It was all a complete accident. It was very much a guy's night out. It was very much a like, I had no intention. Like, I thought that was, I didn't necessarily give up on that, but it was not in that, I was not in that space whatsoever. It was a complete accident that I got that letter. It was a complete accident that I opened it up, and it was a complete, like, on a whim decision to, I had never even been to California on a vacation, and I flew out there the next day.
So riddle me this, Batman. You said you're a calculated person, and you made one of the most spontaneous decisions of your entire life.
Yeah. So I am very, very, very calculated. I'm very analytical. I am very methodical about what I do and how I do it. But I am very, very much in tune with my instincts and my gut. And when I feel something, I go for it and I start figuring out on the fly. That's the only caveat to my strategy and what I'm thinking. Because, again, going back to why didn't this business work? But we did all the things right. You can look it up. You can read an entrepreneur book. We did everything right. We spent the money in marketing. We analyzed this. We tested everything, and it didn't work. Why? It's that extra sauce, brother. It's that extra little thing that you can't put your finger on that changes the game. So and it's not every day you get that feeling, but if you get that feeling, you got to get on that fucking plane. You got to go. And that's what I did.
Imagine if you were too afraid to make that decision, where you would be today. Because there's a lot of people out there that live in fear of taking a chance.
Yeah.
And they will have no clue what their opportunities could have been or what, could have led them down maybe a very successful journey.
It was, and just to like put this into perspective for you, me and my wife we weren't married then, me and my then girlfriend had just built our new place here in Pittsburgh. Okay. Like, she's like, you're going where, how, when, why, what? I'm like, I'll explain when I get home. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was not like, okay.
That's love, buddy.
That's why I eventually had to marry her. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, you earned it. You know what I mean? I've put you through enough shit. So now when she buys shit, I pretend like I'm mad, but I'm really like, she probably deserves it.
I mean, seriously though, your significant other, all of a sudden's like, well, babe, I'm heading out to California. I got a letter. I'm taking the chance. Like, yeah, that's a support system there, man, to trust that you're making the right choice.
But, and I agree with you, but I also think that she trusts me because I've never let her down one time. Okay. Any of my crazy ideas, any of my ridiculous asks, anything that I've done has always worked out. Why? Because there's no fucking way I'm going to let it not work out.
Do you feel like you've ever made a mistake, or do you feel like everything that has happened happens for a reason?
Ooh. I think that I have certainly made mistakes, but I don't regret them. There have certainly been mistakes, but I think that I wouldn't be where I am today, and I certainly wouldn't have the knowledge that I have today if I wouldn't have fucked up the way that I fucked up, right? I mean, it's one of those things. It's really hard for me to tell you that I regret my mistakes because now I use some of those same mistakes to help clients. Now I use some of those same mistakes to help my own businesses that I have going. It's really, really hard because some of my greatest successes now, I wouldn't have even known how to set it up that way had I not lost my ass over here. Yeah. So if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And dude, that's why this show exists, is so someone watching can listen to what you've been through and they can learn something, either to not make the same mistake or, hey, Bill took a chance. I'm going to take a chance too. Like, you could be completely changing somebody's course of life just by having this conversation with me. And if you're liking what you're hearing, and I know you are, hit the like button and subscribe. It's completely free, or Bill will knock you out. How's that?
No, but to your point there, I can't tell you how many times my wife and I have laid in bed late at night, stressed the F out, having conversations like, are we really going to do this? Are we really going to do that? And at the end of the day, I always tell her, like, this is when everybody quits, right? This is when everybody goes and gets that 9 to 5. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me, right? Like, I don't down people that want to get into that employee W-2 9 to 5 thing. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, an attorney such as myself, you can make a pretty darn good salary and be comfortable, and have no risk, essentially, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let me be super clear about that. But like I said, it's just not for me. So when I have these conversations with my wife and I'm like, look, this is when everybody quits, right? Because being a business owner, being an entrepreneur is fucking hard, okay? It's fucking hard. And when you have those shit times and you can't get that contract and your debt is just climbing up through the ceiling and this, that, and the third, that's when everybody says, you know what? I know I can go get this job. I know I can go get this 9 to 5. Let me go work for somebody else. Let me quit and just do that. Throw in the towel. That's why all these businesses, what's the crazy statistic? 95% of small businesses don't make it, or something ridiculous in and around that figure. It's like, that's why. So we have to stick it out. And then one day when someone says, "Hey man, you're lucky," I want you to remember that I'm not lucky. I just didn't fucking quit.
Right.
That's the only difference. I just sucked it up through the shit time.
I
That's
love
it.
that. Yep. And you said earlier that you figure it out. Like you make a decision and then you're going to figure it out. Was there ever a time where you took a risk and you were just like, fuck, what did I do? And am I really going to be able to figure this out?
Yeah, a bunch of times. But especially because when I came out of law school, I did have a pretty much a steady income from a group that I worked with, and I essentially removed myself from the entrepreneur style 100% on my own lifestyle, and it was comfortable and whatever. Shifting out of that when I got back into solely working for myself, my own law firm, my own businesses, um, you get to this kind of like, your wife gets used to that check every week, right? You start living a lifestyle based off of all of that. And when that stops completely, and you're just working on the ideas that you have those conversations in bed that I talked about. When's this going to come back around? When's this going to pay off? And you have to look at that big picture. And you know, to answer your question, it makes you second guess yourself. It makes you doubt yourself. And you start thinking, man, it was a lot easier.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier when I was just, putting the time in and making sure that things were there. But that guaranteed check is real. It's nice. It's comfortable. I get it.
Yeah.
Uh, but you got to take that risk, man.
Explain to me the difference between working for yourself and having all of the control over all of the decisions and then relinquishing some of that to a partner. Like, tell me about how that makes you feel as a competitor.
Well, one, it has to be the right partner, of course. And the biggest thing for me would be, if I had a partner, is kind of outlining and understanding everybody's roles, what that looks like, having a very strong operating agreement to make sure that we are very open and honest. And while we're still in that marriage phase, essentially having a document that prepares for the divorce, right? You don't want to necessarily think about that, but while things are all hunky dory and we're smiling and having a drink, why don't we outline what you're supposed to do? Why don't we outline what I'm supposed to do? The expectations that we have for each other. And then if and when those don't work out, what's our plan of action? Because then when you and I are in an argument, it's pretty clear. It's not because you're mad at me. It's not because I'm mad at you. It's because the document says so. And it takes all of that extra animosity out of it. All the guesswork too. Because I might have some thoughts in my head. You know what? The last 2 months I did all this extra work. Where the fuck were you at? And you're like, dude, you missed the last 6 months when I did X, Y, and Z. But instead of that, what's the document say? And it stops all that riffraff.
That's huge, man. And I own a business as well. I don't have any employees. I've done everything myself from day one. But if you don't have processes in place, it's not the other person's fault if your business fails. You didn't have a process.
Yeah.
So how are they supposed to know what they're supposed to do? And how are you supposed to know the same thing? Right.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
yeah.
And it's super important to have that transparency. And doesn't have to be me. Get yourself a different attorney. The point is talk to somebody that is used to outlining this out for you and preparing this ahead of time. Like I said, it's so much easier to be preventative in these situations. That's what I tell clients all the time. You want me in there making sure that you don't have a problem. Once the problem occurs, it's just damage control. We're mitigating, because anytime you're in court, anytime you have to call me because you have a problem, we're already rectifying something that went wrong. You're already unhappy. Okay, let's start talking and let's figure these things out while you're having a good time doing what you're supposed to be doing. And let's keep you doing that. Let's keep you being creative. Let's keep you in your business doing what you're supposed to do instead of worrying about the legal system.
Yeah.
Because trust me, it's no fun afterwards.
Yeah. So I know you were in business with your dad at a very young age. What are the pros and cons of getting into business with family?
So it's really hard for me to answer that because me and my dad got along so well. It's almost not fair. I don't think we had an argument during our entire time working together, genuinely. Um, he's just super laid back. He's super intelligent. So many of the lessons that I learned working with him down there in a shop in Crafton, I have used to help Fortune 500 companies. I have used to talk to major healthcare companies that are in the Pittsburgh area. They have the same problems as a small mom and pop shop has that's doing your oil change in Crafton right now.
Just on a larger scale.
It's just a larger scale, but it's the same problems and it's the same solutions. It's the same remedies. It's dealing with people. It's dealing with their emotions. It's getting ahead of problems. It's having those processes and procedures in place for people to follow. It's onboarding people the right way. It's getting the right employees for your business, your morals, your ethics, the values that you have as a company. I mean, it's unbelievable. My mind was just blown when, I get into some of these situations and I'm just like,
This is familiar.
it's crazy. Like, and so I attribute a lot of that to that time that I spent with my dad for sure. But if I could have one suggestion for someone that was going into business with their family or friends or anything, it goes right back to the first thing I said. Document it. Because everything's good when it's good. So I don't care if you're going into business with your father. I don't care if you're going into business with the Pope. I don't care. Put it on paper because you'll be very, very happy you did one day. I promise.
Yeah.
It's just how it works.
Communication, just like in a relationship, right? You got to have those hard discussions ahead of time or things are going to fall apart.
And I'm a complete hypocrite because me and my dad didn't have anything on paper. But
You are. So I have to ask, what if your mom owned that towing place? How do you think it would have been different?
I probably would have lasted a day, because we're similar in our competitive nature. But I take a lot from my dad and my business approach for sure because he helped me be very calm, calculated, you know, not letting my emotions get the better of me. I still feel the emotions, don't get me wrong. I feel them all the way, okay? I've just learned to control them, to be able to stay in the room, and it's super important because I can't tell you how many times, especially fighting and doing what I do now, it's hard sometimes to sit in a boardroom across with somebody just talking reckless, and you're just like, man, you have no idea what I would do to you.
So, Bill, I know there's a mental and physical aspect between training for a boxing match and training for a day at court. What's more exhausting?
Ooh. Believe it or not, I think it would have to be the court because the intellectual drain on someone, and whether it be court or arbitration, mediation, a long negotiation with a client, whatever that looks like, I would have to say that's more draining, because you can get in shape. You can get in shape to run a bunch of miles. You can get in shape to spar a bunch of rounds, and get to the point where you get home and you feel all right, or you wake up the next day and you feel all right. Yeah, it sucks for a while, but you build your physical body up for that. It's hard to shut that off intellectually. You try to, you condition yourself to do so, but it's hard, man. Every now and then you find yourself in situations that you just don't agree with, or you think that the judge goes the wrong way. It happens a lot. The judge literally just ignores the case law that you think is
Black and white.
black and white. Like, there's no possible way this could be misconstrued, and you're just left with your jaw dropped. So, like, it's important to remember that, like, that sometimes happens. And so when that occurs, it's hard to swallow because, you've been trained to be objective. Attorneys are always supposed to lead with objectivity and look, it's black and white, it's right here, let's put our emotions aside. And so when that gets betrayed, at least in your mind, that's something that can be very hard pill to swallow.
I mean, it's like you said earlier, when you're in the ring, you have control of the outcome of that fight. If you win, you did all the right things. If you lost, yeah, maybe you didn't train hard enough. But in court, you could do all the right things and still lose.
Yeah.
That's got to be frustrating as hell, man.
Yeah, very very frustrating, and you could continue all down the gamut there. You know, sometimes you bring a client into a negotiation, and you know their expectations are up here, and then you're curbing a couple things, right? Because you're getting them the best deal, right? And then you're also like, hey, this is a good deal. Like, shut up a little bit.
Don't be selfish.
Yeah, like let's not be crazy here because, you know, so there's a lot of that too, is navigating the client and kind of making them understand the objectively the best possible outcomes. Because everybody thinks they got the best case in the world. Everybody thinks they've got the right argument. You know, because you're attached to it, right? You're in it, and I get it. So it's my job to try my best to separate that and make them understand what the real issues are, what the real issues are with the weaknesses in their side, and then we navigate what our best possible outcomes could be.
How often do morals come into play? Like, are you ever at the point where you're like, man, I am really screwing these people over, but I'm just doing my job?
You're bringing the heat today, bro. It's
what I do.
It's one of those things where I can stomach it or justify it in my mind as business. Okay, business is business. We all signed up for this. You know, like again, I'm a business attorney, so the people that I'm talking to 90% of the time, you know, we got into this ring, right? Because we're in business and we're doing this, and I'm just looking for the best outcome for my client. So I can hang my hat on that. Are there times where sometimes you think, oh man, I'm pummeling this guy? Yeah, there is. But there's ways in which to navigate that appropriately and professionally and ethically, most importantly, okay? You know, I am a member of the Pennsylvania bar, I'm a member of the Florida bar, and I have a standard that I have to answer to that is, you know, even higher than the legal standard, right? I could get in trouble, I could lose my license for not breaking a law, right? So I always have to be as ethical and professional as possible, and I'm bound by those rules. So for me, and every attorney's slightly different, I would assume. You know, there's some attorneys where here's their line. There's other attorneys where here's their line, right? So there is some variance there, but I think for me, it's most appropriate to kind of be as forthcoming as possible, you know, be as upfront as possible with my client about where I think things should go and where I think we can press, and then maybe, you know, what the most optimal outcome is that isn't necessarily nefarious.
Okay. That's a very diplomatic answer, Bill. And I wasn't trying to put you in a weird situation. I'm just genuinely curious. Like, there has to be some moral, you know, fight that comes into play when you're messing with people's livelihoods in some cases, you know?
Yeah, there's been a few that have bothered me a little bit. Because to your point, this is how people feed their families. And sometimes, you know, like I love when clients lie to you. Like, you know, like, oh, this is why, you know, we need so-and-so to do this, that, or the third because we have this kindergarten playground we're going to build for sick kids. And you're like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
You just want that Ferrari.
Yeah, right. Like you're booting so and so out to the curb for X, Y, or Z. Like I see right through what you're doing, but at the same time, they're my client, and now I will say I've never had to do this, but I would 100% drop a client if I thought they took it too far. I've never had a client do. I've never been put in that position, but every client I've ever had, we've had good conversation about where this is going, what it is. But I am absolutely within my right to say no to a client. Make no mistake about it, and I would for sure.
Mad respect
Um,
for that, man.
you know,
It's not about the paycheck for you. Like you actually have some
yeah,
morals.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, I'm a pretty aggressive guy, so you'd have to tell me some pretty wild shit for me to drop you. But I think that, everybody has their limit, and I certainly have mine. And certainly the ways in which I'm willing to press for my client.
Yeah.
We're always going to be above board. We're always going to be legal, ethical, professional, all of those things. That goes without saying. Now, within those rules, are we going to be aggressive? Are we going to fight? Of course, that's in my nature. I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't zealously advocating for my client.
Yeah.
But there's a limit to that.
Yeah. So as an amateur fighter, you're trying to make a name for yourself. You're fighting in some kind of shitty environments or shitty fights where they're not paying you anything just to get your name out there.
It happens in the pros too.
Yeah. Now, did you have to do that as an attorney as well? Did you have to take some really shitty cases or cases that just didn't pay well just to get your name out there?
Sure, sure. So for me, my legal career was a little detoured because I worked for different companies in house and did a lot of that. So a lot of my experience has been in house for businesses. So like it just naturally flows that I stayed in that lane as a business attorney now. So but coming out of that, you take what you can get, especially now as a solo practitioner. If I don't take a client, I don't get paid. So it's one of those things where, do you love every single client that, you have to work with? Maybe not. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it's hard to turn down work. It is, especially in today's world. You know, it you walk a fine line in that. Again, going back to what we just talked about. Is it legal? Is it ethical? Can I be professional? Can I do all of those things? Okay, here's how we're gonna do it. Let's lay it out there. There's a whole lot more cases that aren't sexy than, sometimes a case walks in your door, or a client, you talk to a client and you're like, all right, this is gonna be a fun one. Like we're gonna, like this is there's certainly those ones, but it's a little more few and far between.
Yeah.
Most of the calls are like, all right, I can help you out
I
here.
suppose.
Yeah.
Have any of your cases ever made the paper or made the news?
No. And so that is something that I'm proud of. Okay. My job as a business attorney is to get things settled, to get things done as quickly and efficiently as possible so that you can get back to doing what it is that you love, right? If we're in court and we're in this year-long court battle and it's in the news and it's in the papers, that's bad for business.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't like that. You want me in there being preventative. You want me in there making sure that we don't ever make the paper for a legal dispute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the complete opposite. Sometimes, a criminal defense attorney or somebody else, you'd love that, right? You'd love that publicity. Hey, look what I did for this guy. La da 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 da. Not me.
Okay.
You want to never see my
Under the
name in
radar,
there. Yeah,
never even happens.
Yep, absolutely. You never even knew that your business had an issue. That's how we want it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of fighters, wrestlers have taglines. Do you have a tagline in the courtroom? Like, is there something that you say, like, you can't handle the truth? Is there something you say, like, that is just
No.
Hutch?
No.
Okay.
No.
Damn it.
No, it'd be pretty funny if I did, but maybe I'm still a young attorney, so I got a lot. Maybe I'll ask some of my mentors, if they have anything in that way, but I don't. No.
If you have any ideas, comment below.
Yeah, let
what
me
should
know.
Hutch's
Let me know some
courtroom
good
tagline
ideas.
be? You couldn't hit me if I don't know. Anyways, what's the biggest fight you've ever fought in the ring? First one that comes to mind.
So there's been so many. But there is a correct answer to that. The correct answer is my last fight, which was against Adrian Broner down in Miami, 4-time world champion, Hall of Famer, I'm sure. So that one is the correct answer. But there's so many that have been important to me for different reasons. So it doesn't just instantly pop into my head that was the hesitation. But the Brunner fight was a big fight for me for a lot of reasons. It was great for my career. It was great for promotion and marketing and everything like that. It was also great for my evolution as a fighter, because I learned so much in that fight. I took so much from that fight. You had asked me how sparring went today, and it's just like I feel like I'm just out there kind of gliding in slow motion comparatively to that fight there with him, and it taught me so much about the speed in which I'm analyzing and downloading the information in the ring to adequately output what I need to do. So um, it was a huge cultivator for what this next and last little chapter in my career is going to be.
When was that fight?
June of 23.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, my year and a half.
So
Yeah,
you haven't fought since then?
I've not. It's grinding, bro.
Damn.
Grinding.
What's the highest ranking you've ever held as a boxer?
I don't remember the specific number, but I was highly ranked across a couple divisions. I think one of the things that kind of skewed a lot of my actual rankings was the fluctuation with which I've fought the weight. I've fought at 135. I campaigned at 135 for the longest time. That's lightweight in boxing, and I felt like that was a great weight for me. I really could have done some damage at that weight, but the opportunities that presented themselves had me in different divisions. Broner wanted to fight at 47. You don't say no to that fight, even if it's two weight classes above where you want to be. You know what I mean? You just take it and you test yourself and you see what you got.
Time to eat.
It's time to eat, right? It's funny. I accidentally weighed in at 145 for that. Just goes to show you, didn't really necessarily belong in that weight class at that time. I'm growing into 47 now.
We see
You
it.
know what I'm saying? I'm
Calm
growing into
down.
47
Put them
now.
away.
But it is what it is. I'll taper it down. Probably the next fight at 140 maybe. We'll see. We'll see how I feel March 1st and see if we're gonna stay at 47 or drop down to 40.
Where do you feel best? Where do you feel like you're the most efficient, comfortable, nimble fighter?
Right around where I am now. So right now I'm in like the low 150s, 155 ish, which is like nothing to fight at 47. I could probably make like 135 from here if I really like had a hard, serious cut. So to answer your question, it's actually not a division that I fight in, but when I'm like 155, maybe like 152, in the right camp, maintaining as much muscle mass as I can, I feel really good at that weight. I feel really good at that weight because, when I'm significantly heavier than that and I'm really strong and feel powerful, when I strip down any of that extra fat and maintain as much of that muscle as I can, it's a dangerous thing because I still have all that strength, but I have all that extra speed and agility, and I can attack from different angles at a much quicker pace. And my head coach Chris Williams always tells me how fast and great my hips are. So
Can you dance?
little dig. He's trying to say I'm getting older and I don't move my hips as fast as I used to. He's full of shit.
Damn it, Chris.
Yeah, fuck you, Chris. My hips are fast as shit.
You heard it here. Fuck you, Chris. Do you feel like your technique changes at all with the different weights that you carry into a fight? And this is going to be a terrible analogy, but like with golfing, I golf. My weight affects my swing. Like if I'm bulking, I'll play like shit. But like there's like a weight that I'm at where my swing just aligns perfectly. Is there something similar in boxing?
Yeah, I think so because, when guys are a little heavier or a little wider, especially, the bodybuilders with the wide back, and then they try to put their hands up, but their body's wide open. You know what I mean? So a lot of times as you lean out, you can kind of close your elbows in and stay tighter, and it's much more conducive defensively for sure. It's also a lot easier to throw straight punches when you don't have all of that extra mass forcing your elbow out wide. So actually, there's quite a bit that would go into that because I know when I'm a little bit bulkier, I'm certainly slower. That's obvious, but it's I can hone in my defensive technique, especially as I lean out.
Do you ever get used to getting hit? Like, is there a point where you start to get calloused to that physical impact, or is it just hurt all the time?
No, you 100% callous to that. We had just mentioned it's been about a year and a half since my last fight. So the first few sparring sessions, you're a little off, and then it's never great getting punched in the face. You get punched in the face, you're not like celebrating, right? But at the same time, there is a resistance, for lack of a better term, to it, and you don't have that. Fear's the wrong word, but you don't have that instinctual like, no, I'm okay. Like this is par for the course. It's hard to swim without getting wet. You know what I mean? So you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta get in there and do it, and you gotta get hit a little bit, and you gotta get your timing down and block and dodge and weave and all those things. And then as you like knock that rust off a little bit, at least for me, I'm sharpening and sharpening and sharpening. I think another sparring session or two, and I'll be ready to
Ready to
go.
go. So, what are you getting ready for, Bill? What's this next fight?
So the next fight is March 1st here in Pittsburgh. It'll be at the Allegheny Health Network Montour Sportsplex right there in Coriopolis. It's a phenomenal venue, and it's the start of a deal that I did with Highmark Stadium. They're going to do at least three, probably four fights a year, and we are going to be the promoter for those fights. I will probably fight on quite a few of those myself. I will be fighting March 1st for the first one, but then we also have at least one planned for this summer. That's going to be a massive event at Highmark Stadium down in the South Side. So it's a really cool opportunity, not just for me, but for the city and for the local fighters here and the local fight fans, because we're gonna make this an entire series, and we're gonna have a steady and consistent schedule of fights that we're going to put on for the fans here, and it's going to change the landscape for a lot of these local guys that don't have something they can count on, don't have a platform to kind of get started and gain some major sponsors to help them get from fight to fight and focus on fighting, as opposed to having three side jobs and doing this, that, and the third. I've been there. It's hard. It sucks. So the most or the best ways in which that I can be a catalyst to kind of thrust that forward for these guys, I would love to do that. And obviously, I love coming back here to fight. I love fighting in Pittsburgh. I always get a lot of love from the city, and it's where I'm from. So I like being back here and performing for my people.
And that's Turf Wars, right?
Yeah, Turf Wars.
Is that going to be the series? Is that what they're
Turf
calling
Wars
it?
is the series. Yep.
Okay.
So it's a play on the turf that's on the field that the soccer team plays on. So the professional soccer team, the Riverhounds, they play at that Highmark Stadium, and they practice at that Montour Sportsplex in Coriopolis. So the indoor venue will be at the Sportsplex. The outdoor venues at Highmark. So when it's when it's conducive to be outside, today is not one of those days.
Nope, it's certainly not.
Snowing quite a bit. I was dodging and weaving some accidents to get out to you here. So today would be a pretty bad day to have a fight outside, but we're hoping that this summer we'll have a nice dry Pittsburgh day. Dry
Said no one
with
ever. It does
no
not get dry.
rain at all will occur on that day.
Who were you fighting on the first?
I'm fighting a guy, Sal Corral. He's out of Monterrey, Mexico. Tough veteran, 50 some professional fights. I think he's like 32 and 20 ish, somewhere in there. Tough guy, rugged guy, come forward, blood and guts kind of uh, hard ass kind of Mexican guy that you would expect, which will be great for the fans. You know what I mean? So I've never been in a boring fight in my life, and I don't plan on being in one on March 1st. So he was the right opponent to kind of come back. He's certainly very skilled, and he's certainly a very grizzled veteran. So I think it's the right opponent to not only put on a great performance for the Pittsburgh fans, but once we get him out of there and win this fight, it'll kind of show the level that we're on, get us back up into the conversations to intrigue a big fight for this summer.
Yeah. So you said you watch tape before fights to prepare for your opponent. Have you ever faced an opponent and they're giving you something that you were not expecting?
100%. And that's why you have to be so careful with film. That's why I think that getting a general idea or looking for specific tendencies that fighters have in film is probably the most conducive thing that that can do for you. It's not so much what they're doing against the opponent they're in front of. It's much more about if they have habitual tendencies that they do every time they set up this shot, or how they move, how their defense is, what their preferred stances are, this, that, and the third, as opposed to like, oh, he really loved the left hook to the body on this guy. Well, maybe that's not what his plan is for me, right? So I like to do some film study for that aspect so that I have a general understanding of how this gentleman has a stylistic approach to our fight. But it's much more conducive to have different sparring partners and have a good, solid, healthy camp with different guys giving you different looks, because that's really what's going to prepare you for whatever it is that that gentleman brings on that night, as opposed to like, I'm banking on him fighting like this, and then, you shit your pants when he comes out with something totally different.
Now, as a fighter, are you trying to be unpredictable?
100%. And so a lot of people think that when I say being unpredictable as a fighter, the first thing you think of is like an awkward, goofy way in which you go about it. No, I don't mean that at all. Yeah, seriously. But like, a lot of these guys you see, especially these younger pros and these amateurs, they do all this crazy shit. And you know what I would like to do as far as being unpredictable is I want to be able to throw any punch or hit you anywhere that I would like with the same look. So if I'm dipping over to my left and you think, oh, I did my homework on Hutch, he's gonna throw that left hook to the body. That same exact movement, I like 7 different punches off of that, right? So that's unpredictable to me because you have no clue what's coming off of the same look and the same movement. That does not mean I'm doing this big grandiose thing. It's the same tight little look over here to the left. And from that point, when I shift my weight over to that left leg, I can do a lot of different things. That's unpredictable. And that's at the same time being defensively responsible. And that's high level professionalism as opposed to some of this wacky fucking bullshit.
So you're essentially fighting your opponents or beating your opponents with your brain more than
100%.
your muscles, right?
This is very, very much high speed chess.
I
Very, very much.
I don't follow boxing. No offense, don't hit me, but I've never been a huge fan of it. I appreciate it,
Yeah.
but when you're watching it, all you see is the physical aspect.
Yeah.
They're fucking exhausted, hanging on each other, hanging on the ropes, sweating like crazy. Like you don't think of the mental aspect behind it.
It's get in there.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do the next one. We're gonna have you in the boxing gym. We're gonna get you dog shit tired. And then, we'll do some coordinated stuff on the pads and you're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on? You have to stay locked in. It's so much more mental than physical. I promise you. And I think that all fighters would agree with that, I would think, because if you understand this at a high level, um, there's just, I'll give you an example. Some of these young fighters out there, they probably run more miles than me right now. They probably do whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay? I promise you that they're not going to put me into a position in that ring where I'm in danger. It's just not going to fucking happen. You know what I mean? So go run 17,000 more miles, go do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's a mental thing. Now, I need to be in shape to do what I need to do, but this is all mental, brother. It's all mental.
So we know how to train the physical: run, jump rope, speed bag, lift weights, whatever it may be. How do you train the mental?
You got to be in there, man. You have to get in the ring. With my head boxing trainer, Chris Williams, he's a great fundamentalist. He really understands the fundamental aspects of striking in general, but for me specifically, boxing. Weight distribution, hand placement. Your feet using leverage, etc. My one of my assistant boxing coaches, Ryan Flora, he's a great guy as it relates to like he's a newer, younger coach, but he's all in. He's soaking up a ton of knowledge, and he's great because he'll hop in there with me sometimes, and we'll pick up the pace a lot better. And then one of my go-to guys, longtime friend of mine, worked with me in the gym for a long time, Jared Boyer. He's a much more flowy, rhythm based trainer. So in my evolution as a boxer, I've navigated and taken pieces from all of those things. So having a team like that really allows me to be very dangerous because I can take the fight anywhere I want. I can fucking move around and box and play that game. I can come right at you and brawl it out. We can play that game. I can bounce in and out like a Pacquiao-ish type of style if I feel like it. We can do anything we need to do to get the job done. So it's just a matter of what I feel like fucking doing. If I go in the ring and on that day or in that round, I feel like fighting like this, I can do that. If I feel like fighting like that, I can do that.
So you change your technique as the fight goes on.
For sure. 100%. 100%. What's working, what's not, what's most conducive to his strengths and weaknesses, mixing it up, keeping him on his toes, not letting him get comfortable in any position. And then once I really find where he's uncomfortable, he's in big fucking trouble. Because, I'll take that any which way it comes, and then once I see one little chink in that, like, oh, he didn't like that too much, we're stepping on the gas, and that'll be the style for the fight.
I mean, I'm like terrified listening to this, just thinking about being your opponent. I like the mental side of things, I think is so much more important as a psych out than the
Yeah.
physical too. Like
Yeah.
just hearing you talk about it, I know I'm not stepping in the ring with you, but I'd be like, fuck, I don't want to fight this guy.
Well, it's been 20 plus years in the making. I've put my time in, I've paid my dues, I've got my ass beat plenty of times. Just comes with the territory. You live and you learn, you get better, you grow from it. It is what it is. But I'm at the point now where I'm ready to start making some moves and making a whole lot of noise as it relates to my career. And we're going to have a whole lot of fun doing it.
How's the wife feel about you stepping back in?
She loves it, man.
Yeah.
She loves it, especially when I get punched in the face. She's like, "Yeah, should have done them fucking dishes." You know what I mean? Like,
I love it.
nah,
That's good.
she jokes to me all the time because listen, CT is a real thing, and I have plenty of friends. I've been in this game a long time, decades. I got decades in the game. I've gone through like damn near generations of fighters that have come through Pittsburgh, and I'm still hanging around. I know all of them. I know all the old guys, all the guys my age, and then all these new young guys because I need the young guys to prepare me for what I'm doing now, right? So I know all of them. I got 3 generations of fucking fighters coming through Pittsburgh. But with that said, I unfortunately also know a lot of guys that are hurting. Okay, I know a lot of guys that are medically disabled. I know a lot of guys that are not doing so hot these days. It's something I'm very cognizant of. Okay, it's not, I've got a family now. I support my family with my brain. Okay, fighting is fun. Fighting is a good catalyst for business, but it's not my day to day thing, right? I can't get hurt,
Yeah. So
right?
you're
It's not here.
confident that you'll be able to make that right decision if that time comes.
Yeah, I am. I am. And I think it's because I try my best to keep the right people around me and because I do try my best to take care of myself, be aware of, the shots that I take. If I get clipped with a good shot in sparring, you will not see me back in there until I feel 100% better and my coaches feel it's about enough time that I've had rested. I do a lot with, friends of mine that are in the medical industry to try to take supplements and do different things and get different treatments to stay in tune with, my body, my brain, and just do everything I can. It's a lot and it's a lot of guesswork because that's not a fucking perfect science and nobody really knows or at least it's not common knowledge what the right answers to that are as we sit here today. But I'm certainly taking steps in that direction and studying and doing whatever I can that I know of to prepare for that.
Preventative maintenance.
Very, 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 very important.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest thing is kind of taking the appropriate rest, you know, kind of especially now I'm a little bit older, you know, it's like the guys in the NFL that, you know, they take their days off in training camp and everything else. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I can't what's that song? I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. It's so fucking true, okay?
Yeah.
Because when I'm in there sparring, I'm as good as I ever was or better. Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna be a little sore, brother. I'm not gonna get up and run 17,000 fucking miles tomorrow morning because my hips are gonna be a little sore. I'm gonna be a little sore. You know what I mean? But if you're
Slow
talking,
hip Bill.
yeah, fuck you, Chris. But if you want to put me in a ring for a fight, you know, I'm as good as I ever was.
Yeah. You mentioned local fighters. A good friend of mine, Dan Borowski, I think you know his cousin Rick.
Yeah,
They go to Boyce, I think.
yeah, yeah.
So Dan and I graduated high school together, and he's going to be just so excited that I brought his name up
Nice.
talking to you.
Nice.
So, hey, Dan, what's up? He's actually going to be fighting soon in Vegas. He's 46. We graduated high school together. We're the same age. He
Interesting.
hasn't fought in a very long time, but he's stepping back in, and he's super pumped about
What's
it.
out in Vegas? What's he got lined up?
I don't know the details,
Okay.
but I'll ask after the fact and
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, I mean, I know some of the fighters that you're probably, you know, at the in the ring with, or at the what do they
Yeah.
call it? Training camp or boxing gym or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. Even today we had a great group of guys, and I think it's probably at least a few of the names of the next wave of guys. You know, we got a guy in there who's on the card March 1st as well, Jerome Baxter, tough young guy, come forward, throws a lot of hard punches, entertaining for the crowd. You know, we had Shane in there, who you're very well aware of. Big, strong, entertaining, wrestling looking motherfucker,
Yep.
right? So,
Yeah.
you know, he's gonna, you know, evoke a lot of emotion out of the fans. He's gonna be trying to put on a show for everybody, which is gonna be fantastic. Another guy we brought in for camp this time to help me out with sparring, Tommy Parker, another local kid. I think he's 2 or 3-0. Just fought recently, had a knockout, tough kid. Gives me some good looks, you know. Who else? There another amateur guy, Zach Waz, tough guy, coming out of Southside Boxing Club with Layshock and Dallas and those guys. He's a tough kid, man. And then Silvio Cercone was in there today, another tough amateur, longtime guy. I've known him and his dad way back in the day when I was training out at Yank Hellos. So we had like a tough group of guys in there. Another young up and coming kid who will be you know, something special if he can really focus on a few things. Sal DeSimone. Um, there's a nice little crop of guys here right now that I think, given the right platform,
Yep.
can do some good stuff. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the future, and I think that if I can put this little series together and have all these guys in the camp, you know, it'll help me. It'll help push me along, and then in turn, I'll be able to uh, put something together for these guys as well.
Yeah. Do you train or mentor any of these younger fighters?
I don't necessarily train him. I'm quasi training Shane a little bit for this fight, bringing him onto the team, working with him personally a lot, but kind of utilizing my coaches that to help with him. Um, it's something I've certainly thought about for like when I retire. It's hard to it's hard to give a fighter what he needs as a trainer if you're also training. Yeah, I love
Too
it.
much to focus on?
Yeah, like I love training guys. I love coaching. I really do. I think it's certainly something that will come, but I know what I would ask of my coaches. Like I have to have multiple coaches because it would probably be too demanding on one coach realistically. Like there's not enough you know, there's a lot that goes into it. You need a staff, you need a team, you need all of that. You need help because there's just so much work to be done. So I would be wrong to train one of these guys while I'm still active because I couldn't give them what they need.
Yeah. I think you'd be a phenomenal coach, dude. Like just the mental aspect and just the knowledge of the sport with all the experience that you've had. I mean, geez, oh man. Like
Yeah.
you If you weren't planning on doing it when you retired, you said you're thinking about it. I mean,
I would just love to stay in the game too. I think that would be so fulfilling to me, not only to help out some of these guys, but I think even selfishly, I would love to just stay in the game and stay in the sport and be around it, and as best as I could once I'm physically unable to mentally stay in it.
speaking of physically unable, we're going to arm wrestle. And I think you're going to be
Uh-oh.
physically unable to beat me. No, I'm
All
just
right.
kidding. It's all part of the show, buddy.
How you want to do it?
Here, I'll set it up. I'm going to ask you a question as we arm wrestle. I'm not,
Okay.
look, I know you have a fight coming up.
Okay.
We're not trying to hurt each other
Okay.
like you would if we were in the ring together. This is for entertainment.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask you a serious question as we're doing this
All
to
right,
make you
well,
think.
awesome. Look, this is strategy. Look, he's already trying to fucking finagle my thumb.
Look,
so
I
he can get it.
have zero technique. I don't study anything. Look at
I
you
see.
coming over the top
Nah,
already.
Yeah, because I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to fuck with me here. Yeah, that ain't my first rodeo, pal.
All right, you start when you're ready. I'm going to ask you a question.
All right,
Go
let's
ahead. Go.
Let's go.
What's your favorite courtroom movie and your favorite boxing movie?
See, I'm stronger than my weight. You see my ass coming up out of the thing? You know what I'm saying? I don't even like.
He's hovering over here.
My favorite movie?
Courtroom movie and boxing movie.
Boxing movie. I would say probably The Fighter. The Fighter's a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm. That's the one with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg, right? Right?
No, I was thinking of the one with like Hardy where he's in like the UFC kind of like
That
cage
one.
looking thing. Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
All right, courtroom movie.
I don't know. I like the Suits, the show Suits. So I would have to say that one.
Okay. That was never going to end.
I was gonna end with me over, dude, it's funny. You ever do like the workouts where you're like on like the Kaiser or something, so you're like not like you don't have anything holding your legs now. So if you're doing a lat pull down, like I can lat pull down more than I weigh. So if I don't have something on there, I'm like, oh shit.
You're doing
Reminded
like,
me of it.
you're
I'm
doing
like,
a
oh, my
pull-up.
stool. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, Bill, I mean, I wish you the best of luck in your, I guess, second part of your boxing career, right? This is like a reawakening of sorts, right?
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
Do you have any messages for the viewer before we wrap up here? Any closing thoughts that you think is going to resonate with everybody?
I think the biggest thing, and no pun intended, as far as, what I'm about to say is life is a fight. You know what I mean? It's very much a fight. I don't care, physical, mental, whether it's business, whether it's, just getting through the day, whether it's family stuff, whatever it is. The biggest thing is not to fucking quit. Everybody struggles. Everybody goes through shit. I go through shit. I'm going through shit now. It happens. You can't fucking quit. It's at that point, at that lowest point where you've got to really just rally your stuff together and make sure that you're taking active steps forward to make sure that you have a plan in place and to get it done. Just get it done.
Yeah. What did Denzel Washington say? If you're going to fall forward, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because we all fall.
Yeah. I like, another thing too is like the fall forward is fail forward. I like fail forward because, if you're constantly trying and you're failing, you just keep going. You keep going, and eventually one of those tries, you're not going to fail.
Amen, brother. Well, it's been a pleasure having you.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to link the Turf Wars tickets still available.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm going to be there.
All right.
And you should be too. Any questions for me before we wrap up?
No, brother. I think we're good.
Good. All right. Well, watch one of these episodes, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will see you on the next episode of Barbells and Bourbon. Peace.
I love it.
Good shit, man.